Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Best Friends by Design podcast. We are your hosts, Janet.
And I'm Giselle.
And today we're so excited to have Elizabeth Marth-Tarrara with us. She's not only a certified transformational growth coach, but also the spirited founder of Sacred Freedom, a healing agency that guides women through their spiritual journey and midlife awakenings. Elizabeth's work is deeply personal and transformative, helping people reconnect with their true selves and turn what might feel like a crisis into a time of growth and discovery. I discovered Elizabeth's work about 6 months ago when I was seeking support in a very difficult time in my life. Her ethos really resonated with me. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, Janet. Hi, Giselle. Thank you both so much for having me.
So nice to have you on here.
Welcome. Excited. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I am so excited to meet you. Like, we've been talking about this for the longest time, but I am beyond grateful for what you've done for my best friend. And it's just, we had to have you on because we couldn't gatekeep this. This is like everyone should have this process and should have somebody like you in your life. I know that that's something that I've seen. So here you are. So welcome.
Thank you for such that warm welcome. And honestly, Giselle, I feel like I know you just because you're such a part of our sessions as well. Janet speaks so highly of you and your friendship. And I love that you two do this together. And I just, women supporting women is such a beautiful thing. And yeah, I'm just happy to be here.
So, Conscious Uncoupling.
Yeah.
Tell those that do not know what Conscious Uncoupling is, fill us in.
Yeah, absolutely. So Conscious Uncoupling is a book. It's a book, but more than that, it is a program, a 5-step journey that Catherine Woodward-Thomas, who is a renowned licensed family and marriage therapist, she has so many other credentials, author. After she had written her first book, which was Calling in the One, so she called in the love of her life, and then, as life happens, right, discovered that was no longer meant to be. And so they had a daughter together. And it wasn't that they didn't love each other or respect each other. It's just they had very different trajectories of where they wanted their life to go after a certain number of years that they were together. And so Catherine was convinced, you know what, I want to say 13 years, Janet, but I could just be saying that number.
There's your magic number to that.
Right? I know. You know what? I can get back to you on that. I don't remember exactly. And so she was convinced that there had to be a better way of ending a relationship in her situation of marriage, and really went through her different learnings and teachings and people that she was really, in admiration of, and created this 5-step program. And so her intention really was that there was respect, mutual respect, loyalty to the same cause, loyalty to creating a completion in which both people were going to honor each other, that the child, if there's children involved, a lot of times conscious uncoupling is really great when there is children involved. And there's a lot of dissension between the two people because it really puts the children and their well-being at the forefront, as well as then each other. Because we have to remember, most people, when they get together, whether they're married or not, don't necessarily have the intention of breaking up. There is a connection there. There is love there. And Catherine does a beautiful job in her book and her program of really bringing that back and finding some sort of connection for that to be your North Star. So Conscious Uncoupling in and of itself is a program, a journey of 5 steps that help either the individual or the couple, and I know we'll get more into that later, go through the process of releasing the different emotions that come up and ending or, completing their relationship in an honorable and respectful way.
Yeah.
My God, how much I wish I had you with my divorce, with 2 little kids and all of that. Oh, it would have been so valuable, It's so crazy how much hurt and pain you could cause each other way after the divorce.
Absolutely. And I think a certain percentage of the collective society, I think, believes and are taught and are conditioned that divorce has to be this horrible, nasty situation. And don't get me wrong, it exists and it's real. And I do believe if more people knew that there were these ways to go about it in a different way, I mean, you have to really put aside a lot of your humanness to do this in some cases. But there is a different way. There is a different way that actually can create a more healthy situation for both, both people going through it and like we said, the kids. There is a different way. It's just really creating that conscious awareness of it. And because it is, right? Just like you said, like years later, there can still be problems and unforgiveness.
And it transmits to your children, to yourself, and to, honestly, your current relationship. And what I've learned from this through my process, being remarried, is that you have to resolve those issues. You think you're like having closure with the divorce and you're not going to carry on those same maybe bad habits or ego emotions. All those things carry on to the next relationship. And then you wonder why that relationship is broken, or you learn from those mistakes and you don't do them the same way. So sometimes it's like, why didn't I fix that to begin with?
Do you want your children to know that there's union, and there's still union with their parents, even though they may be apart, they're still, you know what I mean? Like they don't hate each other. In other words, it's not like they're bashing each other like normally happens in a lot of situations with divorce. Like for whatever reason, the divorce or the marriage ends, like, and the two, they hate each other. Like, oh, your father's like that. And like, you're just like your mother. And like, you want it to be more of we're still a family. We're just not together, and you're still like, we still love you and we love each other all the same, right, Elizabeth? Isn't that really what like kind of the soul of conscious uncoupling is keeping the love there?
It absolutely is. And there's a spectrum, right? I mean, again, to bring Catherine back into this, it's amazing. So she and her former husband have a daughter. He remarried. So her husband and his next wife have a daughter. And then Catherine is a partner. And they all of them get together for the holidays. Like they've made it this beautiful, exactly what you just said, like this beautiful extended family. That's not how it is for everyone. However, it's possible. And I guess that's the thing. You get to create, I tell my kids this all the time because they have a lot of divorced, friends that have divorced parents, and some of it's ugly and some of it's amicable. And I try to let them know. They'll say, well, it's not supposed to look like this, or this isn't how it goes. And I said, you guys, there's no rules anymore. Like if families want to vacation together and families want to do whatever with their other partners or spouses or other kids, like that's the new way. It doesn't, like, we're evolving, we're creating something new. And I think that slowly it is becoming more accepted. I hear more about amicable divorces more every day than I ever used to when I was growing up.
That's so good, though.
Yeah.
I think people are realizing, like, I don't know, like the reality of it, maybe. Like,
I think that fairy tale that, at least I know that I kind of believed, it's like you get married and it's for your forever person. I think now we realize is we evolve, we change. We're not the same people in our 20s than we are in our 40s, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes that person that you meet is like for a season, it's for that time in your life, and you grow, and it doesn't diminish who they are or what they brought to your life, but sometimes you outgrow them. Or you learn who you really are,
and it doesn't align with you anymore,
right?
That's just.
And it's crazy, but then, in my case, I have two kids from somebody that I evolved from, but away from, but then I still have to honor him because they're part of the kids' lives. And let me tell, and one of the things I want to point out that is so recently I experienced is, I was like, okay, the kids are 18, they're off to college, now they're 23, 24, but they're off, and I'm not going to have to deal with this man anymore. right? And I'm not going to have to deal with the situations. There's weddings, there's graduation.
Forget it. It's forever.
Forever. And then what I realize is my oldest son that doesn't really share emotions, he goes to me, Mom, you know what? I'm going to elope. I'm not going to have a wedding because I don't want to deal with the mess between you and my dad and the families. And I felt like such garbage, you know? And I'm like, wow, you know, and here I thought that I was kind of being discreet about my feelings. But my point is it resonates, and I don't want them to feel like their beautiful day that they're supposed to, you know, have with the love of their life
Can't be as special as
special because it's overshadowed by
drama.
Because of our unresolved shit.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that is one of the key, factors in conscious uncoupling is to really set the intention of what you're going to carry through, of how, like, I'm saying you, but you as a collective, how one is going to show up throughout the relationship, even if it gets to be where the other person isn't acting in a mature, honorable, loving way, that one is you are still going to stay in integrity with yourself. And that can be really difficult. But I think the piece of it is when you have support around that, and when you have, I think that's why, and I mean, because anybody can read the Conscious Uncoupling book. I think every single person alive should read the Conscious Uncoupling book, because it's not just for romantic relationships. It can be done with any relationship in your life.
That was one of our questions.
Yeah.
Like who else?
Like business partners,
family.
Yes.
Family.
You can do these 5 steps. I did it with my mom after she passed because we had unresolved issues. And I mean, I was like, well, now what? And so
stop. Can you rewind? You did this. Hold on. Let's take a moment. You did this after her passing. We have to talk about that because that is fascinating.
So when I decided I was going to become a conscious uncoupling coach, which, I know we can talk about later, but my mom had passed, I think, 6 months before, and we had a very, and I'm very frank about this, we had a very complicated relationship most of my life. And in her passing, it only got more complicated. So after she passed, and I was having, how I came to conscious uncoupling, I'll just share, is I was having questions in my own marriage of whether I wanted to stay or go. And so I began looking into conscious uncoupling and loved the idea just so much in general. Like, I knew that this didn't have to just be for couples. And I wanted to get certified in it. And so as I was getting certified and going through my certification, it's like a 9-month process. I was like, I can do this with my mom. Like, I can literally do these steps, because it's originally designed just for one person. We do it now with couples, but it's not designed to have 2 people, right? Because so many people aren't in it together, right? I mean, it's really designed for you. I love it when couples come together and do it, because it makes everything so much just more consciously healthy. But getting back to my mom, because really I had to solve my issues within our relationship. I knew I needed to heal that. And doing this process, it was a completion of a relationship. And it was so healing for me. And so when I have people, and whenever I talk about this, I'm like, it can be done, and it doesn't even have to be like the ending of a relationship. It can be a different way to do your relationship. And that's why I say it can be done with anybody. You can do it with your mother. You can do it with your siblings. You can do it with a business partner. You can do it. It's just tweaking the wording and tweaking some of the exercises to whom you're doing it with.
So it follows the same protocol. Like, you're completing that marriage or partnership that did not work. And you can, in essence, recouple and continue, like, start fresh slate. That's just brilliant.
Okay.
I just, to be able to do that with a business partner or your family, your mom.
Wait, you know what? We did it.
What? You and I, we did it. We really
I'm loving it.
We did.
We did.
Look at that, because
We had a bad breakup. I don't know if you knew that or anybody does, but we had a bad breakup, and but
it was the bad breakup that we never argued. We never argued. We never fought. We worked together, and it was one of those things that I think really I needed to let Janet go in a way so she could spread her wings and discover herself, but.
Yeah.
It just wasn't feeling.
We worked together.
Yeah, we worked together.
Yeah.
She worked for my
company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was something that happened, but it was the way it happened. It was so odd. It's a long story, but anyway, the point is, I missed a lot of important years of Janet's life, and I missed her terribly. And we reconnected, and it was like. No time had passed, but our relationship was so different because there was a sense of appreciation that we never had for each other or realized and took for granted. So then now coming back older, wiser, more mature, I think we hold on to our friendship with such tightness and such grip because we know what it feels like to miss important aspects of each other's life. Monumental. I miss her wedding. I wasn't there for her wedding. And I'm like, I can't. I'm like, aw.
You were there for Penelope, though.
I was, but you know what? Oh, no. It's one of those things that you value, as you get older and you become more selective, I think, of who you surround yourself with, especially when you do the work, right? You do the inner work and you really figure out who you want in your life. You choose the people that I think your souls attract each other, right? There's this a soul attraction or they call it a contract. I think our
soul contract.
Of course, you know what that's called.
Our soul contract has been renewed.
I love soul contracts. I love that. Well, later. I mean, let's
Let's do it organically.
Yeah. With soul contracts. I like that topic.
I know. Well, for
another one of our future topics.
Yes.
Oh, I love that.
So then,
we heard a little bit about what prompted you to become a Conscious Uncoupling therapist. I have to know. Did you end up divorcing your husband, and did you end up staying in the relationship?
So we went through at that time, I did the program again, not with him, but I did that on my own and was very sure that I was going to go. And then we separated this has been a process, ladies. We separated last January. And I moved out, and then in the summer, we decided to try recoupling. So we are in a place where we're seeing where it goes. So anything is possible, and I think that one of the beautiful things that doing this work and then living this work is that. Regardless of what happens, similar to what you are saying about each other, like we have an appreciation for each other. We have such, we look back at how we treated each other over so many years because of our childhoods, because of our old conditioning, because, and then can see how we both grow. We've both been in therapy. We've both been doing our work. We've both been, evolving and growing in our consciousness. I can honestly say whatever path this takes, not that there's not going to be emotion, right? There is. There's always going to be ups and downs. But I think overall, regardless of what happens, we will always be there for each other and we will always love each other because we have been, I feel like we've been through hell and back, right? And that makes you stronger. And when you can see and appreciate, because there was a time that I hated him. And I think it was mutual. I think there was mutual. There was so much going on. And when one of the things in conscious uncoupling that changed my world, because as much therapy and like coaching work that I had been in, I had never fully stepped into taking personal responsibility for how I was showing up in a relationship. I don't think I did it with my mom because I didn't understand. I know I didn't do it within my marriage. I was very much about, not even consciously, but blaming and shaming him, like it was on him and it's him and he needs to change. And I thought I was taking some responsibility, but in conscious uncoupling, like you take freaking radical responsibility.
Yeah, you have to own up. You have to own up.
You have to own up.
Fault. Yeah.
And it's not so much that this is where it can be hard if you have codependent tendencies, because like if you have codependent tendencies, you can take it all on. And it's not about that either. It's about owning your part and allowing the other person to own their part. But the reason that it's so important is because when we're in a victim place and feel like everything is happening to us and like we're not seeing our part, we have no power. And we can't make changes from a victim place because you can't change feeling like you have no power. So when I was able to own and see like the ugly parts of me, right, that's a judgment, and I hate to use that. I was judging them as ugly, right? They're not necessarily ugly. We all have shadows and they actually have so much to show us and teach us. But I was able then to like step into my power and be like, oh, like I can completely see my part in this. I wasn't, and this is where the fine line comes. It's not necessarily about taking the blame for a situation. It can be saying, I was so self-abandoning that I wasn't sharing like what I needed or what I felt because I didn't know how to do that. So I just shut down. And like, I'm owning that like I wasn't in my power. Like I was self-abandoning. So it's where you're noticing, even if it's someone who isn't using your voice, right? That can be your part. Catherine always talks about owning like your 3%. So if you're like in a horrible situation and an onlooker would be like, it's nothing is her fault or nothing is his fault. It's all the other person's fault. That's just not true. It's not a fault situation, but it is owning your part, because in order to make a change, you have to own your part. So whether it wasn't using your voice, whether it was, not necessarily getting the help you didn't know, like getting the help that you needed before entering into a relationship, but now knowing that you can, it's all about being empowered so you can then make the steps that you need to make to become, this is cheesy, but like the higher version of yourself, right? Like who you want to be and who you want to show up as in your relationship. Because Giselle, it's what you said. You take you with you wherever you go. So like leaving a relationship, not that isn't absolutely warranted in many situations, but that's only the first part of it, right? Like you have to deal with what's underneath. You have to deal with what was going on. What was your part in it? What were the red flags that you missed? What were the different patterns that were exhibited? Because then you can change those, release them, and heal them so you don't carry that onto your next relationship. Or you don't pass it on to your kids, or at least you do it less than you may have done before.
It's a lot of times just maturity too. My first marriage, I was 21. I'm like, I was 21. What the hell did I know? Like at 21.
No.
Yeah.
And I remember looking back, in my 20s, having children then and all of that. And I'm like, how did I expect another person to know me when I hadn't even evolved to the person who I was going to become? And I have all these expectations on this person to know. And then let's not even go there when it comes to the whole stereotypical idea of like, this is the role that the woman's supposed to play and this is the role the man's supposed to play. And I was just having this conversation actually with my younger son, and he's like saying like, now, when women are expecting us to do all these things, what about us? What about our feelings? What about our emotions? And if one thing that has helped me tremendously having sons is to heal my relationship with men, because I've had daddy issues all my life, but bringing up two boys, what it's made me realize, they have insecurities just like we do. They have emotions. They have their feelings get hurt. It's a very different way of what I was brought up. Men are cheaters. They only want you for one thing. You had two, it was such a
toxic.
Toxic situation. And bringing up two sons and seeing their vulnerability made me realize and treat men completely different now. Every time I see a man now, it's like all I do is I see that's somebody's son.
Yeah.
And it
Absolutely.
changes the whole viewpoint, the whole way of thinking. And it's so funny because I have so many guy friends.
Which is great because then you can honestly see that it does go both ways. I think that's the other piece when you start looking and doing your work. And yes, having sons is amazing because I never really grew up around boys, and I have a son and then he's got all of his friends. My son's younger than yours, but it still teaches you so much because you do get to see how similar, I have a son and a daughter, how similar they actually are. But within that when a person, and I hold this belief very strongly, when a person is acting out in any sort of way, there's a reason for it. There's something below it. That doesn't mean it's okay, but there's something beneath. Hurting people hurt people. And I think when we can, again, that's not making an excuse and that's not saying, oh, well, that's okay. It's just the understanding that we all have our things, and that the more that we normalize emotional health and emotional intelligence and getting, whether it's coaching or therapy or reading or whatever it is, self-growth is really, really important.
So I'm curious, you do all this work with couples and individuals. How many of the people that you've coached, what percentage end up recoupling from uncoupling?
So I'm very selective about the couples that I work with. I've become very selective because couples work in conscious uncoupling can be one-sided, meaning that one person really wants to uncouple and the other person says they do, but they secretly are wanting to get back together. It can cause different intentions, just can be really confusing for both people. So the people that come to me generally come because they want to uncouple. So I wouldn't say that I have a huge percentage that recouple. However, Catherine her next book is, well, she might have another book coming before that, but is conscious recoupling. So I think when that gets more out there, you will see more and more couples who are coming, understanding that they want to complete the marriage that they have, and they want to restart something new, rebuild something new. And let's ask me that question in a few years, and we'll see what that looks like. So, but right now, I would say the majority of my couples, if they come, are wanting to uncouple in a really amicable way. And you have some surprises. You have some couples that are going through it and then decide wow, this program actually, I can see you. I can see why you were showing up the way that you were, and vice versa. So why don't we see if we can make this work?
Question for Janet.
What?
Oh, I'm going to throw out. What, from your therapy with Elizabeth, what do you think has been one of the most valuable things you've received from it?
To honor myself.
Wow.
Good.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like
Simple.
It's something that should be, a given, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes your love for the other person is stronger than the love you have for yourself. And you don't realize it though, and then it's a process, but that's one of my main takeaways.
Which is what I love so much, because that's the heart of my work, honestly, is for women to truly have a sense of their soul, a sense of themselves, because unless we have that, we aren't going to show up in any area of our life, including our relationship, fully empowered in the way that we want to be.
Well, yeah. And also too, I'm thinking, of the person you attract, right? Once you honor yourself and you show up who you really are, you're going to attract the person that you really want, instead of this, when you're not honoring yourself, you're not really showing up who you really are, right? You're
valuing other things.
Well, and you're in a different energy. Like when you are, you know, like you said, Giselle, like when I was 23, I was a much different person than I am now. And while I had began dealing with some of my wounds, I certainly wasn't where and I don't mean it like I have, you know, I'm not where I want to be now either, but I'm certainly much further along on my journey, like at 46 than I was at 23. So at 23, I'm going to attract the energy where I'm at, where when we are evolving, and hopefully when we're in our relationships, each I'm talking with just like, you know, monogamy right now, but our partners are evolving with us. You know, that's the ideal situation. That's not how it always is. So, you know, if we're evolving and our other partner's still down here, that is an energetic mismatch. And it most likely isn't, unless this person here is willing to raise up here. It makes it very difficult to have like emotional intimacy, which leads to difficulties having any other sort of intimacy. So when we are doing our work, and getting healed, we are going to attract that level.
The energetic connection is so
important
and so overlooked. And it's like once you lose that like spark of energy and you're like that connection goes, it's like,
and you're so easy to get caught up in the routine.
Life happens
every day, and the you know, the routine of, hey, are you did this? You know, what eats for dinner? You know, the 9 to 5, that whole routine to me is the killer of relationships. Mm-hmm. I really do think they are. It's like, and I think talking and getting to know each other as you continue to evolve and bringing the person with you on your journey, you know, is so important.
Yeah, because, you know, I think about it. Brett has to get to know who you are now. You weren't the same Giselle you were 10 years ago, 17 years ago, 20 years ago. So you have to like continuously like get to know your partner. Like
just something as simple as exercise. Like we started doing yoga, and then Brett decided to join us, and
because he has FOMO.
Total FOMO. Just totally.
God forbid I take her away.
Oh my God.
Has fun with someone else but him.
Oh my God. I swear. He's so supportive and loves a relationship, but he's still possessive. Anyways, I think it's cute, but you know, whatever.
So he's dysfunctional but cute.
Right.
Just kidding.
Fair enough. It works for you guys.
So he starts going to yoga with us, and I can't and Pilates and all of that. And I have to tell you, it's changed the way we eat. It's the change our week because we have a routine. I used to like, oh my God, could we not order Uber Eats? Like I'm nauseated by so much food. But now he's cooking with me. We're doing recipes. It's that whole little
together, that little
brought in a whole lifestyle, and now he's proud of his body. He feels sexy. He feels good about. Oh my God, too much. He's a Leo. It's like there's not right now. It's like, but I'm so happy for him.
Yeah,
and it all started. Yeah. Look, it was just one step, right? Which then turned into a whole domino effect, and that has really been one of the recent lessons. You know, how that could really, and that is now turning into our kids watching us and seeing what's in the fridge and the snacks we're doing with the dates and peanut butter, blah, 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 blah. And now the kids are doing it. So it just doesn't end with us, right? That's the whole point. We're collective. It really is.
Yes. And it's a ripple effect. And how beautiful that you and Brett are doing this. Like, and it's the continuing evolving, right? Because you have to continue to communicate. You have to continue to grow. You have to continue to excite each other, to be interested in each other, to do new things. Like it's important. I think one of the things that happens in any relationship, but particularly one where you're either married or living together, or it's a long-term relationship, is that it does get mundane. And so, like, you have to do things to spice it up. Like, what was it like when you were first dating? Like, bring that in. So I love that you guys were doing that.
No, it's been a game changer. He still pisses me off. Any other
Of course.
points?
He has to. That's his job.
Yeah. But this is what changed, and it wasn't him. It was me. Now, when something happens, I just don't look at what happened in that moment. I look at all the other beautiful things that he does in our life instead of fixating on that one thing that he let me down on, or he disappointed or pissed me off or whatever. So those moments still happen, and we're still a work in progress. But the big change definitely was my realization that he's a human being. He has a bad day. He's not perfect. He's doing the best he can in this, game of life, just like we are, with all our insecurities and conflicts and difficulties and challenges in today's world. So I've learned to have more compassion.
Which is so important. It's like one of the most key factors in your relationship is compassion. And the other side of that is the communication piece, right? Because some things, we do just need to let go. And then the other piece is, if it really is something, then you get to communicate in a healthy way, right? We call it like clean talk, or like owning, hey, I really felt this way and I noticed this about myself, and having like direct, honest, open communication about whatever may have been going on for you or for him. And it's keeping those lines of communication open, and and giving compassion and giving grace and giving forgiveness. Because like you said, none of us are perfect.
No, we're not.
Right, exactly. So,
but as long as we're
better.
I love that.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
it's true. So communication is the most important factor in marriage.
Definitely one of the top ones.
What would you say is your top three?
Yeah.
I think it
key differs for marriage.
I think communication. I think intimacy, right? Emotional intimacy. And I'm biased, but I think emotional intimacy is what leads, for women, is what leads to sexual intimacy. A lot of times for men, it's opposite. Sexual intimacy leads to emotional intimacy. So I think they're really tied together. And I think I want to say similar values, but it goes to what I mean in that is communication of, if it's really like what your love language is, like if quality time's my love language, but that's not my partner's. My partner's is words of affirmation. Communicating like what quality time would be great for me and what words of affirmation would be great for him. And then having it's not compromise. I don't like the word compromise, but having the desire or intention to, like, in a non-codependent way, but like help meet my partner's needs and have him meet my needs. And if that isn't happening, to have the discussion. And compassion is a piece of that too. Like it really goes into, I guess the other third, here's what it is. It's knowing yourself. It's knowing what you need and not expecting the other person to give it to you without communicating that. So I think communication, intimacy, and knowing yourself.
Yeah, right. That's awesome.
It is. Wow.
Yeah, you've schooled us.
Yes.
No, just kidding. No, you're amazing. And I love, that's the one thing, one of the many things that I love about working with you is the way you're just so, like, the way you just explain things and make them so, like, they have a heartbeat to them. Like they're so real and they're so like, they're deep, but it resonates. It's not difficult to understand. It's like so natural, and I love talking to you. And I wish everybody had Elizabeth in their lives, because you're making me, and helping me get to where I want to be personally with my personal growth. And I'm loving the process. I'm loving the journey, and I can't wait. Can't wait to see where we go with it.
No, Janet, you are one of my favorite humans, and you are incredible. And I'm so grateful that I get to work with you. So thank you. Your words mean a lot to me.
Likewise. Thank you so much for being here with us. Oh my God.
Oh, it's been a blast.
So good.
I loved it. And I'm so glad to finally meet you, Giselle. And thank you for having me on.
Oh my God, so incredible. And I love the way she found you too.
Yeah.
You know, so I asked Janet, I'm like, Janet, how did you find Elizabeth? You know,
her ethos, it just I don't know, it resonated with
so
me.
you said you went to the website of the book.
Yes.
You went to
and I just started like searching, and there's hundreds of coaches. And I was just reading through the profiles, and it was something about like just her words and like her
energy.
style.
Yeah, probably.
Like I could feel her energy through her words. You're a beautiful writer, by the way. Beautiful writer. Her website is phenomenal. And we love aesthetics.
Yeah.
So most beautiful website. What is your website? So everyone can look you up, because it's so beautiful, and the words and the imagery, you're going to be like, oh,
thank you. It's sacredfreedom.life.
Beautiful.
So you're on Instagram too.
I'm on Instagram, Sacred Freedom for Her, and Facebook.
And you have your podcast.
And I have my podcast, The Sacred Journey. Yes, and that's on wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yes.
Oh my God.
So you'll be on soon. So if there's anything that maybe you guys would love for us to chat about with Elizabeth, send us a message, let us know in the comments, or you can send us a DM on Instagram. And Elizabeth, thank you so much.
Thank you, Elizabeth. It's been an honor to have you. And I look forward to the next one. So once a month, right? Let's do this once a month.
I would love it.
Once a month.
I would love it.
You know what? I think would be so essential for our listeners. I think it's going to resonate, and people are going to love it.
And it's not just about the conscious uncoupling. There's so many other facets of coaching that you offer, and like just life transformations in general. Having a life coach by your side is like, it's like the best thing. It's like having somebody help you, but just kind of guide you in the right direction. Life is so complicated. It's always throwing something at you. It's good to have someone.
It does. It is. Oh, thank you so much.
So thank you to our listeners for your support, and thanks for tuning in. And don't forget to like and subscribe and share our podcast on YouTube. We are on Spotify and Apple. And of course, you better be following us on Instagram.
Thank you, guys.
Anytime. Elizabeth. Love you.
I think thank you.